Around $6 billion wiped off the share price, a potential $1 billion fine looming. Westpac is under the gun. Peter Wilkinson, their chairman, wants to hang around and find his own replacement. Is that appropriate?
In this particular situation, yes, it is. It'd be nice if for the public to see that everybody's cleaned out, but you do have to actually have a transition. And a chair plays a very important role on the board, of course, and so there are processes and procedures and personalities and an understanding of the bank culture that the current chair would have that a new chair may not. And so a transition of a few months sounds a long time, but in the way boards operate, where they may meet on a normal basis, maybe monthly or something like that, a transition like that is okay. So understand that everybody wants to take it out on everybody who's involved at the bank, but it does need a transition.
Right, because I know in Rugby Australia with Cameron Klein, their chairman, he's stepping down next year, but he's hanging around and is part of the process to find his replacement, and that has come under huge scrutiny.
And I can understand that. The problem many people see is you've got the same people trying to do something different, and that's really hard. And because inevitably their behaviour is built in after 60 plus years
and they may have been
doing the same thing, and they're part of the problem. So you can't keep doing the same thing and expecting a different outcome, which is the problem we've got. But you do have to have, in this case, an orderly transition. Yes.
The chairman of Westpac, he's been in the role for 8 years and he hasn't devised a succession plan. Self-preservation, self-interest, it seems a common problem among many boards.
There's the problem now senior directors around Australia have is you've got these grey, what's the term, pale, male and stale directors doing the same old thing, clinging to the same old job, and it's a club. And that perception has got to be broken. And it's people like Cannon Brooks at Atlassian who are really revving the place up, and it's badly needed. The people clearly haven't learned from the Banking Royal Commission. There's a whole raft of things that need to happen inside a big institution. And this is a really important role for corporate affairs people, and it's really valuable to learn from what's happened here. Alan Fells, for instance, has called for criminal penalties, jail time, for people who've done this. And in the transport industry, when they face this problem, they created some laws called the chain of responsibility. So if a truck rolls, now the courts can just not look at the truck driver, but the person who loaded the cartons, and the person who put the cartons on the pallet, the person who loaded the pallets on the truck, the person who tied down the load, the person who checked the tyres, and then above the driver, the person who supervises the driver's hours. There's culpability right through the system. Coupled with that, if you have really strong whistleblower legislation so that people are encouraged, so if an IT bloke buried deep in the bowels of the bank spots this kind of behaviour going on and spots it and identifies it, reports it, and nothing happens, they can go upstairs, are encouraged to go upstairs and go further upstairs and whistleblow within the bank in this case. And if that doesn't happen, go to the media to make sure that stuff happens.
And that ties into freedom of the press, and it's so important, isn't it?
Well, freedom of the press is critical. Good whistleblower legislation to protect whistleblowers and a good media, a strong media is really important to keep the bastards honest. In this case, we've got really good financial press in Australia, I think. There's been some terrific analysis on what's happened in the Fin Review and the Australian with what's happened at Westpac. It's a credit to them that they've been able to do it.
The role of corporate affairs in all of this, it's quite complex, and that role has changed somewhat over the years, hasn't it?
Yep, a good corporate affairs person is paid a lot of money now, and deservedly. What should have happened, and I would hope this did happen, is that the corporate affairs people and the people who were advising on corporate affairs had said to the bank, the CEO has got to go long before Austrac made its announcement. Then it would have been so easy, and the board might have been salvageable, because the board could have said, we've already taken the steps. We've already done this and this and this. It wouldn't be just the CEO going, but a raft of other changes that they could have put in place. Because they had, in some cases, they had years. In other cases, they had months. In other cases, they had days or at least hours to make decisions. And having been through the Banking Royal Commission, it would be really easy to give really good, the advice you need to give as a corporate affairs person in a dramatic situation like this isn't complicated. Corporate affairs has changed dramatically. It used to be that corporate affairs was a gatekeeper to protect the reputation of the company. Now, in this very era of social media, globalization, fast travelling news and transparency, it's changed completely. The old style corporate affairs was to keep the media at arm's length and to keep have a cynical view about shareholders and to, same with government relations and so on. The worst offenders years ago when I was a journalist were the Catholic Church and BHP. And they were the most difficult for a journalist to work with, at least in my experience. It's changed dramatically now, and the role of corporate affairs is actually to have a good relationship with the media and a lot of the time encourage media interaction, because media helps corporate affairs keep the bank accountable to the public, the shareholders, customers and so on.
Absolutely. Now Twitter, just want to finish on a lighter note.
Right.
Twitter is often a cesspool, as we know, but every now and then it can throw up some gold. And last week I saw a little gem that said, it looks as though Prince Andrew has been doing Westpac's PR, and unfortunately for Westpac customers, it doesn't look too far from the mark. We'll see you next week.